Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Ethan Felizzari-Castillo, film and theater producer, director, writer, founder of independent production company CK Productions and its branches CK Films, CK Theatricals, CK Marketing, and CK Records. Welcome to the show, Ethan.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Excited to be here.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Ethan. And I'm
Yeah.
sure not just in India, but a lot of people, a lot of independent producers, film producers and theater people, they will benefit from what we are going to talk about. We learn from you about the secrets to thriving in independent film and theater. We learn all this. But before that, let's learn a bit more about your journey, about your background, so that audience knows who they are listening to.
Yeah. So my name's Ethan. I started off in film and theater back as an actor when I was very, very young. I fell in love with the art form and what it was and what I could say with it. And what I've found over the years is that it's become a way I can express myself and make sense of the world and the world's complexities. So, I started off by getting into this just, in a very communal way, working in community theaters, performing in community theaters, and my production company, CK Productions, which is a multimedia production company. We started off doing theater in Long Island, New York. It started as community theater. It grew and grew and grew into something else that was even larger than I could have ever imagined. I started it when I was only 15 years old. I was still in high school at the time, and never did I imagine being my late 20s now, still be working for the same company I started when I was in 11th grade. But it's just been an amazing journey. And, starting in theater and then venturing on into film, and then from there going into other avenues, music, entertainment, marketing. It's just been a blessing, and work within the independent space of all of that, whether it's film, theater, or music. It's been really special. So we're very very grateful for our journey so far, and my journey throughout all of this. I started off as an actor, went into this as a director, and then I think became a producer. And now I find myself doing a little bit of everything, but producing being my where my heart is always, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first, if I understand, you have this background. You are from Salvadoran heritage. Means how should we understand? How does it impact? Or you are fully
Yeah,
from a U.S.
yeah.
perspective, you look at filmmaking.
Yeah, of course. I think it definitely impacts I think anybody's heritage, anyone's background, anyone's family is going to impact how they approach stories. And I think in, not just in the US, but really all over the world, an immigrant spirit, or really a foreigner spirit is something that it can't be taught. And the work ethic that we have, is it can't be taught. And I think in this country, in the US at least, there's it's a country made of immigrants. It's a country that thrives because of immigrants being here. And when my family, they came here at different times in their lives, my parents, and they met in New York, where I'm from and where I was born and raised. And I think it's using my heritage and using my family's history. It informs everything that I do. El Salvador is such a beautiful country. We're a small country in Central America, for those of you who don't know who we are, because a lot of people, even here in the States, don't know where El Salvador is. But it's a gorgeous country. I love it. Any chance I get to go out there, I do. I just adore that place. It has become and a really gorgeous beacon of creativity for me and inspiration for me. But yeah, I mean, it's I think just the essence of what it means to be from a place like that. It fuels my creativity. So while maybe it doesn't always directly inspire everything that I do, it does fuel that creativity in a really special way. So
Right. So maybe someday you will open a branch in your home country, or do you already have one?
My goal, one of my dreams, is to be able to open up a production facility out in El Salvador. I think that, places like India and the US have such great infrastructure for film and for TV and for theater even. There that is already built within culture of both of those places and other places around the world. A place like El Salvador and really all of Central America, that infrastructure isn't really there. Like there's some minor small studios, local stations for TV, but there's not really a hub for film to be able to go out there, which is why when you see Central America in film and TV, doesn't matter where it's coming from in the world, typically you're not seeing it in that home country. You're seeing it in Mexico, you're seeing it in Costa Rica, you're seeing it, that's a little bit in Costa Rica, I guess, but mainly in like PR, DR, and you're seeing it in different places. You're not really seeing it in all of these countries within Central America, especially a country as small as El Salvador. So it would be a huge goal of mine to be able to have a production facility out there. But also, I'm working on a script right now that is about the Salvadoran Civil War, and it's going to highlight a lot of major issues coming out of that. So I do hope to be shooting in El Salvador soon. I would love that. It gives me an excuse to hang out there for a long time. So
So, what sort of movies, films do you make? Political, creative? Tell us a bit about the type of
yeah,
things that you create.
yes. So I find that with film and theater, I tend to think of myself as a cause-based creative. And what I find that means to me is that everything I work on, I try to make sure I can attach a cause to it. So while it's not always necessarily political, in my eyes, maybe sometimes it's political in nature, right? But oftentimes, I think I try to tell stories that have a larger issue and add a thought to a larger conversation. So I had a short film that recently just did really well in the festival circuit and played a bunch of really independent festivals that was centered around mental health. It's called cosquillas, which means tickle in Spanish, and it's explained when you watch the movie. But it's a story that's really important and personal to me because I've seen family members of mine, specifically in the Latin community, not really ignore mental health, not really put any sort of attention to mental health and the importance of it. So for me, telling a story like that was extremely important. And my debut feature film that I'm working on right now, which is the first one that I'm directing, I've worked on other features, but to direct a feature this is my very first one, and that's called Backyard Desert. That film is about the border crisis in the United States. And specifically, it's from the point of view of a Border Patrol agent and a migrant who is crossing over, who sadly passes away in the beginning of the film. And it's this really amazing conversation about humanity. It was based off of a play, which I directed. And then, along with the writer, Nancy Irene Kelly, I adapted the screenplay and we turned the play into a screenplay, and we turned it into a film that it is now. So, again, for me, while to me, some of these things aren't necessarily political by nature, like humanity and people seeking refuge isn't, to me, political by nature. It's a human issue. Our governments unfortunately have turned it into a political issue. So I find that I tell those stories that are really, really focused on humanity, not really stories that are focused on fantasy or world bending. But I'm not opposed to anything. I just love telling stories, and I love movies. I love theater. I go to see shows and see films as often as I can. I'm just a big fan of storytelling. So if there's a good script out there that someone has that is dying to get it produced, and it's about a dragon and some fairy tale made up land, give me a call. Maybe I'm interested.
Of course, of course. So when will this film be released? What a time to make such a film! Yesterday only the new administration, was inaugurated. With that, I was
Yeah,
watching that, so I want to understand in that context.
yeah. I mean, so look, this play has been, Nancy, who wrote the play, she has been working on it since the early 2000s. And after Trump got elected the very first time, and that administration came in, she made a really conscious effort to finish that play, and seeing the way immigrants and migrants were being talked about, and seeing the way that these poor people who are seeking refuge were being talked about in the media, it invoked her to start this piece, and she really got excited to really dive into it and make it a thing. So, I directed the first version during first Trump's first term. I directed it on stage in New York during his first go as president. And now, many years later, it's 6 years since I directed the play, going into the feature film version, which is for sure going to be seen by way more people because it's a movie and it's easier to get it out there. I mean, it is going to be tricky. I mean, we're going to start shooting that film in late April. We've already shot a little portion of it, but we're shooting the rest of it late April all the way into the end of the spring. And I mean, yeah, we're nervous. I mean, it's a deep story to be telling during a time where it feels like migrants are going to lose so much of their humanity, just the conversation surrounding what's going on the border. It's a lot of numbers, and a lot of viewing these people as objects and talking points rather than viewing them as human beings. Because I don't think anyone, I don't think a single person is innately bad or innately hates other human beings. I think, excuse me, I think that's something that, we as a group of people, we tend to learn these things. And I think innately, if we were to go and see people who are struggling, human beings want to help other human beings. I think what's happening right now is there's a lot of talk and a lot of conversation surrounding things, but just that conversation is scary. So it's a weird time to be making a movie like this, but in all actuality, it is more important now to make a movie like this, because this isn't just a problem in the US. Refugees all over the world, there are refugees in Europe, there are refugees, I'm sure, in India, there are refugees everywhere. And there's also people who are struggling everywhere in the world, who are seeking better lives, even within their own countries. So this is a story that I think, even though it's going to be harder to maybe make it in under a political climate like this one, it's an important story, and we're ready for the challenge. And our team at CK and all of our production companies who are working on this project and all our team and cast behind this, we're ready to take it on. And yeah.
Right. As an indie, creator, producer, director, cost-based creator, do you think they can think of having earning a lot of money, or is it always going to be about survival? How is the landscape from that point of view? You see, what sells most as an indie producer, director,
Yeah.
creator?
So it's really tough, right? Like, I think independent creation in general, when you're talking about art, there almost has to be two conversations. It's making art for art's sake, and then finding a way to survive and making money under a capitalist world that we live in, right? Unfortunately, you can't just make art and then that's it. You need money to survive, and you need to be able to make some sort of a living, to not just provide for yourself, but if you have a family, if you have kids, all that stuff. So, you know, it's not impossible. I mean, look, there's right now there's a really amazing indie film boom actually coming out of India as well. There's some really amazing independent films that are going all over the world, not just the US, not just in places like India that have great infrastructure, but literally every corner of the world is making beautiful, amazing independent film. What's amazing about independent film and theater is that you have the opportunity to earn more, right? And that's because you own it, right? It's not owned by some major studio. It's not owned by some major, company. Oftentimes, when you're making your own stuff, you're able to control more of the creativity. If it's yours, you're able to control more of the direction of where the film is able to be placed. Obviously, a big studio is going to help you get into tons of theaters and festivals and all this stuff, but you have more of a customization there where you get to control a little bit of your destiny. And I think it's very possible. I think it's possible to make money right now in this industry. There's an indie film boom happening. There are people who are able to make full livings of just creating projects that are, whether cause based or something entirely made up. But it is out there, it is possible, and we're seeing examples of that every single day. Now, what I do think is important to understand, and to me, I had to really learn this, is that it's not just about making money off of one specific area within that industry, right? Although I love directing, directing doesn't always pay the bills for me, especially when I'm focused on, you know, a specific project like this one with Backyard Desert, where I've been locked in this project for so long at this point. We're still in the process of getting it shut. We're still in the process of getting our final funding together, and getting everything, last few bits that we need to be able to make this thing as impactful as we want it to be. So in the meantime, I got to make sure that I'm also making money and surviving, right? So what I've learned is I learned that I have a knack and a love for marketing. So instead of just saying, let me go get a marketing job, what I did was I created an opportunity for myself by opening up the marketing sector of our production company. Now we have a very small team, but a small team of us that work on other films, marketing those films. I love the movies. Like I said, I love theater, I love entertainment. And if I get a chance to market that stuff and combine loves of mine, that's amazing, because then I'm still working within my field. I'm still working within my passion. Um, and I'm able to control my life a bit more. So I think, it's important, if you're going to take on the idea of being an independent creative and actually making money off of it, you understand how you are as a person, what you're going to need to survive, and most importantly, how you can create opportunities for yourself. Because being an independent creative, you have to be entrepreneurial. There's no way around it. You just need to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing I want to understand, you see, uh, you are a creative person, and marketing is slightly different. You like
Yeah.
marketing also, but for a very creative person, they are always a bit laid back, hesitant about speaking too much, and that is about marketing. How are you able to switch this context so fast? Are you?
Yeah. I
Is it
mean,
a easy thing, or it comes naturally to you?
it comes a little naturally to me. My family has always owned small businesses, and we've all always owned our own things. So my parents owned a soccer specialty store. My brother then opened up his own version of a soccer store when my parents closed that. My mom is a life coach. My dad works in home improvement now. My brother also owns a menswear clothing store in New York City. My sister started a jewelry brand in high school. So like everyone kind of has this entrepreneurial spirit about them in my family. So, marketing with us, whether you like it or not, and when you have a small business, you have to market it yourself. And I'm sure you had a lot of people on this show talk about that, where you need to kind of put on the marketing pants too. Even if you don't want to, you kind of have to out of necessity. And I think when I became a producer, and when I acknowledged in myself that is what I love more than anything, is producing, is grabbing a script, whether in film or theater, and turning it into something and watching it grow from development stage all the way to the final product, being that that's my main passion, I think, um, that is innately a more of a business position. While there's so much creative that goes into that, you need to be thinking of marketing. You need to be thinking of how things are going to play to an audience, or how tickets are going to be able to sell, so you can make back your budgets and make back your money, and get your investors paid and get yourselves paid and all that stuff. So innately, as a producer, I've learned to be a marketer. Now I have, dove into this world of marketing in a way that I just adore. And I genuinely, I feel like no matter how large my films can get, I think I'll always be working within the marketing space too, because I've learned that there's something creative and fun there. I don't care if I'm winning an Oscar one day. I think I still might go back Monday morning to keep working on marketing for a movie. I love it. And it's, I think it's okay to have multiple passions. It's okay to love a bunch of things. And I think when, I'm in a very fortunate place where I've been able to build my company around all the things that I love. It's a wonderful place to be. But again, you need that entrepreneurial spirit to be able to, I think, shift the hats a little bit and wear the marketing hat and wear the creative hat and wear the producer hat, wear the director hat, all of that stuff. So
Absolutely, you love marketing, and I can see it very much. And
I
that's a
do.
nice
I
thing.
have fun doing it. Hey, it's fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in all this way the industry is moving, especially in the creation and in the film and theater, how do you think with the AI coming in, Sora and everything else, how do you see? Is it the, let me, take the help of Charles Dickens. Is it the best of times for indie creators, or is it the worst of times for indie creators?
I think it's the best of times. I tend to find myself being an optimist. I think you'll always find me saying that it's always great and everything's always looking. I'm always looking for the positive, I guess. But I think, I think AI is interesting because AI is the total opposite of what art is, in the sense that the innate nature of what art is to me is human expression, and AI is computer expression. It's become its own thing. But the problem with AI is it needs to access information from somewhere. So innately you're plagiarizing by using AI in some capacity, right? Because it's never fully original. It's pulling from millions of pieces of data and information and ones and zeros to be able to come up with whatever it's coming up with. So I think genuinely that AI is not going anywhere. It's only going to keep getting larger. It's only going to keep getting more widespread. And I think the film industry, no matter what, is going to have to embrace it. I think what we can choose to do as filmmakers and even in theater, honestly, any creative space, music as well, I think that it is going to be very vital that creatives not lose themselves with AI, and that they watch themselves with how they utilize AI in projects. For someone like me who's working on independent film, my budgets for independent films, you're talking about under $5 million, right? And although $5 million obviously is not a small amount of money, under $5 million for a film is considered a smaller amount. It's considered a lower budget film. So if I'm making films that are $500,000, or one film that's 1.5 million or 2 million, I may not be able to afford certain things that AI can help me afford. And I think that there's going to be a way that we can utilize AI positively, and implement into films, especially independent films, to increase production value. Now, it doesn't mean I think that they should be, recreating actors or, completely designing backgrounds using AI, but I think there's going to have to be some marriage between the two. It's impossible for there not to be at this point. We're already so far in, and AI is taking over some in a huge way, and it'll be impossible for us to just ignore it and pretend like it's not there. We hate it. We love art, so we're never going to use it. People are going to use it. It's just now a matter how do you implement it. And I think that goes for every industry, whether you are working within the marketing space, whether you're working in the business space, whether you're working in lead generation. It doesn't matter what it is. I think that we're going to need to learn how do we use AI as a tool, just like email is a tool, just like texting is a tool, just like social media is a tool, rather than it being the replacement for human beings, because that can't happen. Society, we can't let that happen. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when do we get to see a truly global independent film which is being as successful as a, say, Hollywood movie, and everywhere people are watching it and making movie
I
for
think
the one who has actually created it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it in history. I think, a lot of these Oscar winning films or BAFTA winning films or films that are recognized in a lot of countries, I think they're innately independent. A lot of them have gotten great distribution deals and worked with larger studios to get out there, but a lot of them are still, very much so considered independent. I think, when you look back in history and we look back at movies, from the 60s and 70s and even earlier, you know, independent film, the studio system was still so new. And the way they got movies out there is the way that I think independent studios need to think of getting movies out there. At that point, what was Warner Brothers? What was Disney? What were all these companies? These companies were individuals who were able to amass some money, but through hard work and through efforts and through people believing in them, they were able to keep climbing the ranks and keep pushing their films. I think nowadays, we as audiences, we don't want to see the same movie over and over again. I like superhero movies. I grew up with superhero movies. I grew up reading comic books, but I don't want to keep seeing the same superhero movie over and over again. It gets boring. And I think everybody around the world kind of feels the same way. So I think it's about telling universal stories. But that's what's so beautiful about independent film to me, is that you have the choice when you go and approach a film to decide, is this a story for a select few? Is this a story for the world? And it's okay if the story is, a localized story. I might make a movie that's about El Salvador, for El Salvador, and nobody else is going to really love the movie, but it's okay because it's not necessarily for them. Culturally, maybe there's differences, things that wouldn't make it a commercial success, but it can be a success in one place. I think that's true about so many different kinds of films, especially political ones, where not everyone cares about what's going on in the United States politically, or not everyone cares about what's going on in El Salvador politically, or in other countries that are smaller. So I think it just, it's possible for independent films to get up there, but I think it's a case by case basis. And again, independent film, you have to be entrepreneurial. So I think if someone out there wants to make a movie, they say, I want it to be a huge movie and do well around the world. No promises it'll be an Avengers level billionaire movie, but it might be a successful movie by every single other metric. I think if you want to happen as a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, you need to be able to say, this is my focus, and I'm going to treat this like I treat any other business, and come up with a really solid plan that's going to work. And that's talking about marketing, you're talking about sales, you're talking about global sales and global distribution, and it's a lot to learn. It's not easy, but it's possible. I think there are good movie studios out
Absolutely. And if you see the production, even from someone like Mr. Beast and all, even it's almost like a movie set, the way,
there.
all
That's it.
those things have come up together. I haven't watched much, but this is what I understand, that it's
Yeah,
with so many people employed, it's almost like, not independent, but different sort of a independent
yeah,
thing.
it
Do you
is.
think
It is.
the whole audience is now, you don't need theaters, you don't need anything, you can directly reach the audience with
hundred
whatever
percent.
you make?
I think that the problem with filmmakers is we tend to be a little bit vain, and we tend to think of ourselves a little bit, and we say, oh, but I want to see the movie on a big screen and I want it to go here. But the reality is that you don't need that anymore, right? I think a theatrical run is amazing, and if you can get screens and get theaters to want to play you, fantastic. That is a beautiful thing, because there's nothing like going to the cinema and going to watch a movie. And I think everybody in the world can agree, when you go see a great movie in the cinema with popcorn and a soda or candy or whatever it is, it's a beautiful experience. But nowadays, I mean, YouTubers have shown us that you can become one of the most successful creators in the world, whether it's through, like Mr. Beast doing, reality and games and stuff like that, and whatever style of content is, and other creators that are out there. We have seen now and learned that you do not need a big fancy distribution company. You do not need a big fancy budget. You don't always need that. You just need to have good quality stuff and be willing to find your audience. It is out there. And now you can post stuff on YouTube. I have seen films, especially short films, or like a handful of feature films or trailers out there online that have done really well and gotten viral, and they did it themselves. There's just one guy who was on his laptop, decided to hit post on YouTube, and it's possible now. And creators like Mr. Beast show you that it's possible, because it is independent. These are people who are making it with their own money, going out and getting their own ads and their own media partners to be able to team up and make more money. So it's a brilliant thing, and it's a resource that I think all creatives, no matter what kind of work you want to do, whether it's like documentary work, or if you want to do reality shows, or you want to make narrative work, music videos, anything. It's an amazing medium that exists now, and a way that we can reach audiences. So yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, because I can reach, like, I can post something and it can reach you, and it can reach someone else in a different part of the world, and it can reach another person in a different part of the world, all without us having to leave our homes. And that's an amazing thing, that technology exists. We can be connected more than we've ever been as a human race.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn about films, about independent films, about theater, about production, about marketing, about so many things associated with everything creation.
Yeah.
So, for those people who would want to know more about your upcoming film, about you, want to tie up with you, want to help get your help in marketing, what's the best way for them to do so, Ethan?
Yes, there's a few ways to get in touch with me. Instagram, social media is definitely the one I am most active on. And same thing with Instagram's threads. I'm active on there. It's just at Ethan Felizzari, Felizzari. You could also follow the production company, CK Films NY, on all platforms, CK Productions NY on all platforms. Or you can visit our website, CK Productions New York, and that's fully spelled out.com, CKProductionsNewYork.com. There you can, get in touch with us, get in touch with someone on our team. My email is on the website, so you can go on there and, find my direct email, contact me, contact another member of my team. But, I want to work with all kinds of creative people out there. So if you have a project that you want to work on something, doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter the story you want to tell, if you need help with anything in any capacity, or even just some advice, get in touch.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.